So hey guys, I'm here with Will, John, and Rob from Lavaboots, the developers of Salt. How you guys doing?
Hey, doing good, nerd.
Doing pretty good.
So I just want to thank you guys first of all for letting me interview you. It's a big opportunity for me, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, well, no problem.
So I guess we'll get right into it. You guys want to maybe give a quick explanation of what Salt is like for anyone who hasn't played the game yet?
Yes, man. Salt is a huge open world sea and island exploration game where you sail from island to island, collecting little resources and crafting new boats and feeling awesome about yourself when you kill a new pirate or get a better boat. That's basically sums it up.
And it has some RPG elements in it, right?
Yes, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a lot of people sort of wrongfully classify it as a hardcore survival. Well, it has some survival elements in it, but more so RPG and exploration.
yeah, we definitely want to focus more on the exploration and adventure rather than the survival. There is a food bar, but you can't die from running out of food.
Well, yet, unless later we add that option, which we most likely will for like a hardcore setting.
All right, cool. Yeah, I actually really love the way it's like this RPG survival like mashed up together, but then like the survival's kind of like toned down for it. It makes it kind of interesting. You have something else to worry about while you're worrying about your stats and battle and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little more relaxing, and I mean you can play it a number of different ways, as you know. When we first made the game, we didn't know it would be considered as relaxing as a lot of people do consider it, because we were thinking, oh, it'd be cool to have this RPG ocean world, and then when we actually made it, we're like, oh, this is kind of nice, just chilling by the water, watching
Yeah.
the sunset, and a lot of people love that about it.
It's a really cool vibe to it, especially like you get into the battle and it's kind of hectic, but in between it's very like chill, and then of course the music kicks in, which is always like really great. You're just sailing down the sea.
Oh yeah, good job on that, Will.
Thank you.
So a big question I wanted to ask you, and I actually saw another person ask you guys this as well. Salt's always compared to Minecraft for some reason, and I myself have played quite a bit of Salt, of course, and a lot of Minecraft, and they could not be more different, really. They really have almost nothing in common. So why do you think that comparison is always made?
I think it's got some of the same elements, like the open world and sort of cartoony style, and first person, and people see a pickaxe and they're like, oh, Minecraft clone. Great.
Yeah, and the early access, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm definitely going to pick your guys' brains on the early access later on for sure, because it's very, very controversial topic right about now.
it is.
The other thing I always hear people compare it to is Wind Waker, I think it is. I never played the game, but
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
that an influence on the game, or did that just like...
I wouldn't say it was a direct inspiration for making the game, but it's definitely an inspiration ongoing for the art style and adventure and exploration that we want players to feel when they play it.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I've heard it
'Cause I
come
love
up.
that game.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering if you guys even played it, because I've never even played the game before. So.
I've played it.
I've played some of it, but I haven't beaten it. Robert's played a lot more of it, and I've watched him play.
I've played through it at least twice.
That's interesting. So, here's another thing I wanted to ask you guys, because I see a lot of these dev blogs are coming up, talking about upcoming features. Which one specifically are you guys most excited to see get into the game?
Oh, man.
Definitely multiplayer, even though that's going to be one of the last things. But it's going to change everything, really. We've always loved co-op and multiplayer games, and so I'm real excited about that. But it'll be a while. It'll be like at the very end. We're going to get it all finished up, all the single player aspects finished up first, and then going to dive on that beast.
One of the upcoming things that I'm really excited about is the GUI overhaul. I really love a good GUI, and ours is very much a placeholder, and it has been pretty. I don't know. It's been like that for a long time. It's about time for it to change.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. I mean, it's nice how it kind of disappears off the screen right now. Like that's pretty cool. But
I
kinda...
definitely want it to have a low profile while you're playing, but I want it to be pretty in depth. Yeah, I don't want it to be. How do I say this? We haven't gone through the big design process of that yet, but Uh, I want it to be quick but deep.
Okay, yeah, okay. And you still
Yes,
want to have it
it's-
minimal like that, where it's gonna kind of go away when you're not using it too much.
Yeah, definitely minimal when you're not using it.
I love the minimal too.
Yeah, me too.
It keeps it really immersive. It's nice.
Oh, and also another thing I'm really excited about is stars.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, stars.
Wouldn't that change the night so much? Yeah, we're bugging Robert. Robert did the sunset, the whole the sun, moon, and sky. So we're hoping he'll do the stars just as awesome.
I never even heard stars mentioned, so I'm excited for that too. That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm really
I-
excited about the story too. We're starting to implement that on the next update, and that's going to add a ton of depth and lore to the game, which is going to be
Yes.
great, I think.
I could say for me, as someone who's recording playthroughs, I'm really looking forward to that. That's
Oh,
really,
yeah, I bet.
that's gonna be awesome. So let's see. We're talking about the stars being developed. You guys are developing it in Unity, right?
Correct.
Yes.
How has that been working for you? You've been enjoying using it?
Unity's awesome. We find limitations here and there, but they're usually small, and they're usually either going to be fixed or fixed pretty soon after we figure them out in new updates. But yeah, it's really easy to use, really good for new developers to get into, especially with the new announcement that Unity 5 is free for everyone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that happened just the other week at GDC.
Yeah.
And one thing about Unity that's awesome is the workflow is really smooth and fast, and so that allows small teams like us to pump out content a lot faster. Well, I mean, pretty fast anyway, and a lot faster than if the pipeline was bad anyway. And it's not as easy to throw out a really pristine looking graphical game as some other engines like Unreal, and but that can be done with some time and effort.
That's interesting. I mean, I see these other engines out there, but I see Unity pop up like on almost every game that I end up playing most of the time. I always hear it's made on Unity. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear. Now here's another thing I wanted to ask you about as far as adding modding to the game. Is that something that's going to be happening down the line to make modding easier, or some sort of API? I'm not a technical guy, so I don't really know the terms, but
Yeah, that's something that most likely will happen. I haven't fully looked into it yet, and that's something along with multiplayer we'll tackle at the very end. But it does have a ton of good benefits. It will greatly increase the longevity of the game because the community can do stuff way crazier and more awesome than we could ever do.
that's something that's going to be really cool to see also. So on multiplayer, see, I'm pretty sure you guys aren't leaning towards this end, but I always see this question asked on every game that turns multiplayer, so I figured I would ask you. You're not looking to make this game a heavy PvP multiplayer experience, right? Where it's just people running around killing each other.
No.
We mostly like the co-op games, so that's what we're going to focus on.
Right.
There may be some PvP elements. You might be able to fight each other.
Yeah,
we
it's
don't
just
really
more
know
features.
yet.
Yeah, it's great. I just, for some reason, every time I see, oh, we're gonna add multiplayer, people are like, oh, don't make it DayZ, you know?
Yeah, cooperative play is
Yeah,
definitely.
the way I imagine it is basically like the game is now, just with more people. You play through it and go explore together. But like Robert said, different modes would be a potential.
Yeah, and multiplayer will always be optional. We have a lot of questions about people think that might be like forced, but you'll be completely free to just play by yourself, if you're like that. And then if you just want to go play with people, then you can.
That sounds really cool. So this isn't gonna be like, in other words, this is not gonna be like hosted main servers. I mean, I don't even know if you guys have thought about that yet, but is it gonna be like I'll just host it and invite my friend, or can I like set up a server?
Right.
Like, how's that
Like-
gonna be?
Probably like a Minecraft server.
Okay, that sounds
That
awesome.
the way you set up those servers.
All right, let me see what else. Oh yeah, here's a question I always wanted to know. Why the name Lavaboots?
Lavaboots was basically the first game that I ever made that I was kind of proud of.
Oh, okay. What kind of game
Back
was
in
that?
high school. It was written in BASIC and it was 2D, and you were this little stick man, and there's a pit of lava at the bottom of the screen, and there's these little platforms that would go across from the right side to the left side, and you'd start on a platform, and all the little platforms, they were just little sticks too. they were randomized in size and height, and basically it just randomly throw a bunch of platforms across the screen that would move, and you'd have to jump from one to the other and stay out of the lava.
Okay, it's like the old kids game.
Hmm.
You know, kids who jump around from like the bed to the couch.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Oh, that's awesome. So I actually have a question for Will. What audio software do you use, and what's like the general process do you use to produce all the music and the sounds for the game?
Yeah, pretty much everything is done in Pro Tools, and most of the sounds, particularly the music, is just recorded through a MIDI controller into Pro Tools using virtual instruments and things of that nature. Actually, very little of the audio in the game right now is field recorded. It's almost always pre-recorded or done virtually.
Oh wow! So even the Merchant song, is that a legit guitar, or that's on a keyboard?
That's a virtual instrument done on the keyboard, uh-huh.
Wow, that's impressive. That sounds really
Yeah.
good.
Thanks. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, I have to ask, who made the pirate grunt?
John.
I made
John.
the front. It's
Can you do it? Can you do it for us here?
I can definitely do more of the merchant. Mhm.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
then the pirate, I mean not the pirate, the treasure hunter has I mixed it up a little bit, did the little
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and then I put it in software and modulated it a little bit and changed its pitch.
That doesn't sound too different. That sounds pretty close to me.
And I did the pirates a long time ago. I don't remember exactly how they went, but I just recorded a bunch of different grunts and picked the ones that I liked the best.
Oh, that's so awesome. I remember one of my early videos, I had like asked that question, and one of you guys responded. I was like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, when you're a small little studio, you gotta figure out how to do things on your own.
Hey, it works. It gives the game character too. It's like I kind of like it. It's charming.
Oh, thanks.
Um, okay. So DLC is a huge divisive topic right now in gaming. Do you have any kind of plans to ever do a DLC thing if this game, gets finished? I shouldn't say if. When this game is like finished, you guys gonna do like DLC ever or?
No,
Yeah,
we have no
Not in
plans.
the
for that.
sense that DLC is thought of. Like, we may do like free updates to the game after it's done, but it won't be like, we don't have any plans to do like paid expansions or DLCs or anything of that nature.
I'm glad to hear that. I think I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of other people are as well. So let's see. Let's start talking a little bit more about early access in general. So I think some of the obvious advantages of early access people kind of know at this point. You don't need as much startup capital, of course. But what are some of the less obvious ones?
To me the biggest less obvious advantage is that it actually provides a means for some games like Salt to actually come to existence. People assume a lot of times that if you're a gaming company, you're just making games. There's no real chance of like not making the. Well, I guess with early access there is, but what people a lot of times don't realize is that if it weren't for early access, we'd have to have outside funding in other ways in order to actually make Salt. And so it provided a means for it to exist at all.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it would be pretty hard to pitch this type of game to an executive or something like that.
I mean, if you had a bunch of other games under your belt before, maybe not so bad. But this is our first large title, and so I don't know if anyone would have picked it up.
Yeah, I think our only other option would have been Kickstarter, but I don't feel like that would have worked out very well because I mean we're a new little company. We had a little something to show, but
And the third option is to just develop it really freaking slow, in our free time, which some people do, but it just wouldn't have been quite as good.
Yeah, and we also, it was a really great way for us to get feedback really quickly in the game, so we can throw something in there and we get feedback from the players and we can adjust the game, and so we can kind of have players help us focus the game within our vision, of course, but they can really help us give feedback and knock out bugs and stuff, so that by the time we're at release, we've already listened to a lot of feedback and done a lot of testing and have that out of the way.
That's definitely really cool to hear because, like, you always hear people are tending to kind of demonize the whole early access process, and I think it's so easy to just throw what's the term? Just throw the baby out with the bathwater type of a thing. People don't realize how many great games we would have just never gotten without that process.
Yeah, you have to hand it to Valve too. They're all about taking risky business approaches, and I'm glad they did early access. It did provide a way for a lot of indie games to get made. And what I like about early access that I think is it has an advantage over things like Kickstarter is that in early access you at least get something for what you're paying, even if it's just an alpha version or something. I feel like Kickstarter, we really didn't want to do that because that was just felt like you weren't getting anything except a promise. But at least at early access, you do get to buy in and test and play and give feedback and things like that, which I think is great.
I mean, for me personally, I always laugh because people are always like, complaining about it, and then they keep buying them, so they must like them, right? What are some of the disadvantages or like pitfalls to the whole process of early access?
One that I definitely think is that, and we've kind of seen this, is that a lot of players, I don't know, I guess if a game is on Steam, they just kind of treat it like it should be finished, even if it is early access. And so there's a lot of feedback and complaints about things that are just natural part of the early access. So, not like a lack of content and some placeholder things like GUI and things like that. And so it's kind of puts you at a disadvantage, and then sometimes it gives off a negative view of the game in areas that will otherwise be improved, whereas if it would never release in early access, they would have never seen that, and the initial impression probably would have been better.
And another thing that I think is it keeps us from being able to deliver a complete, polished, first-time experience to those that participate in early access. And so, as a game creator and an artist, you want to give someone a fully polished experience, and it feels good to give someone that. Though, I love to see people excited about things they find in Salt. And so, with early access, it's not quite as pristine, and so you lose that potential for the people's first impression to be an impression of a completely polished experience.
And one other thing that I don't know, people might not think about is the stigma. I mean, there's a big stigma associated with early access. A lot of people are very wary of it, so that's a downside of it.
So there's definitely a bunch of games that are under scrutiny. I don't want to list any, of course, and I don't want to put you guys on the spot. But can you name a couple of games that you think are really being done correctly?
Well, there's the classic Minecraft that, of course, was a huge success, obviously. One of the more modern ones that I think did a great job is Kerbal Space Program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They stayed in early access a long time, but they did such a good job. I mean, I don't know what they did wrong.
Well, I don't think I ever hear any complaints about that game, so that's definitely a good example.
They were in Unity, too. They did a great job.
Yeah, I would agree with Robert. I would definitely say Minecraft is probably one of the best examples. And that's probably, you asked earlier, kind of why we think we might get compared to Minecraft. That is a huge part of it, too, is early access indie open world games, But hopefully Minecraft will still help people see what can come from early access,
Yeah, that's a perfect example of a game that probably would never, ever have existed otherwise, so. So what's something you wish that gamers would understand better about the whole development or early access process in general? Just in general, like what's one thing that they never seem to get?
Well, I would say that there's kind of two pieces of development. There's the development of the underlying systems, and then there's the content that sits on top of that. And one thing about developing the underlying system, it involves a lot of time and effort into stuff that you don't get to immediately see the results of. So when you're running an early access game and people are waiting for that next update with things they're excited about, sometimes they have to wait a little longer because we have to develop the underlying systems first and then start developing the content that you can actually see on top of that. That's one thing I dislike about the early access process, because that's sort of a necessary part of it. I want to just pump out awesome updates with a lot of cool stuff that people can spend some hours on, and which we do, but a lot of times it requires some of the systems to be built for it first.
I mean, that's got to be a little frustrating sometimes, but I mean, that's why I wanted to ask you the question, so people got a chance to kind of hear your take on it.
Yeah, well, it's all fun to me. I love making the systems, but it's just kind of sad that no one else gets to join in my fun until we get to the actual content.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, and one thing, kind of along what John said, we try, since we do have to do these sort of underlying content architectural type updates every once in a while that doesn't have a lot of new stuff for the player to do, we try to rotate those around with updates. So we'll try to pump out a content update to give players a bunch of stuff to do, and then for the next update, we'll work on architectural type stuff, getting new systems in place and all that. And then after that, we'll do another content update, so that we're never going these long stretches without new things for the player to actually do.
I think that's really informative to all of us, because I've always kind of noticed that myself. It's like some updates, I don't really notice anything. Some couple of weeks go by, I don't really see anything. Then all of a sudden, a ton of stuff comes out. So
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm a YouTuber, and there's a bunch of YouTubers on the Reddit, of course. So you think that's really helped a lot with the spreading of the word about the game and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
It was essential.
Yeah.
That's where we got our main publicity, is on YouTube. When Paul Source Jr. did his first video on Salt, we had just been doing nothing before he did his video.
Yeah.
That's what I heard about it.
Just
Yeah.
shot up immediately overnight.
How do you find out about the game? Do you know?
I don't actually remember.
I think he saw it. I was doing some posts on the indie gaming subreddit, and I think he saw it there, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure that's where he saw it, though.
I'm itching to see another episode of his. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Paul, if you're listening, more salt. Another question I actually wanted to ask you is, because you guys are so involved in the community, how do you pick and choose like what you listen to and like what you don't? Like, what's the process of filtering out? Because of course you want to make everybody happy, but like, how do you know what's going to be a good idea and what's maybe not really going to be such a good idea?
I don't know. I definitely think that, with a game like Salt that's open, there's a million ways you can go. And there's so many ideas you can come up with and do. And unfortunately, due to time and resources, we have to kind of focus and narrow our vision in a certain just things to work on. And so I think for me, I try to at least remember what our overall goal and vision is for the game, and then taking feedback that helps us get there, taking feedback that helps us polish those things up, and then consider things that may be outside of that we can add. But there are some things that we'd love to do but may never happen, just because there's so many possibilities, and we have to kind of rein it in somehow or another.
Yeah, I've got a big list of things that would be cool in Salt, and I just, every time I see something, I'm like, ooh, add to the list.
Yeah.
I almost want to ask you for some of them, but I know you probably want to keep it to yourself.
The secret list.
Yeah.
You keep it in a safe somewhere, like highly protected. Well, the only other question I could ask is, how was the experience of working with Steam Greenlight?
It was really good. It was, man, I don't know. It feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah, Greenlight was great. It took us about a month to get greenlit, but just working with Steam in general has been awesome. And I think all of us would definitely recommend both Greenlight and Early Access and Steam just in general to any developers want to make games. I think it's a great platform.
All right, well, again, guys, I think that's all I have for you, but thanks so much. This has been really fun.
Yeah,
Definitely informative.
Oh, thank you, Nerdroc.
And keep making the game awesome, please.
Will do. Thank you so much.
All right, take it easy, guys.
All right.
Have a good one.